Hello, welcome to Dawn's Death to Life Parenting. In this video, I'll be discussing consequences and what to do when a child, blatantly does something wrong, says no to a parent's face, whether that's, as I've alluded to in my other video, leaving a playground. Could be anything that needs a consequence. I'll talk through that. This is one of the very fundamental, foundational things to have in my tool belt as a parent, to remain calm, to have to avoid willpower struggles, to avoid inappropriate kind of child controlling me or the situation. I believe this is the proper way to discipline a child, and has been effective for me. I'll share exactly what I do, this is, I can't guarantee it'll work for every parent, every situation. I believe some form of this is worth a shot. If you're struggling with children acting up, disobeying, difficulty testing your limits, your patience, like this is worth a shot, I would say. At least for me, I would. Anyway, so what I'm going to share is based on Love and Logic, which is a parenting system that a lot of my parenting is born out of. It's called Love and Logic. It is amazing. I would highly recommend that as well. As an organized form of parent empowerment. And so anyway, there's a concept where I'm going to go is a concept called an uh-oh. Now there's two things here. There's empathy, and then there's the consequence, or the consequence statement. And both are needed for this, to truly do it the right way, to truly create a reality for your child that mimics, that trains them up in a proper reality, I believe. And that's, a basis and a foundation for what I do in my parenting. I want my girls, who are 1 and 5 right now, I want them to grow up being prepared for how reality actually is. I want, when they turn 18 and they move out, I want them to be ready to experience reality, how it is, not some false or fake reality where they feel like there's somebody over their shoulder, like ready to punish them if they make a mistake or if they do something wrong. Like, no, that is not reality. I do something wrong, I'm 40 years old. If I do something wrong, like, nothing happens right away. Usually. It's not always. Like, reality is being what it is. It's like somewhat unpredictable. It's like, no, I don't know what's going to happen if I do something wrong. But usually it's like, if I run a red light, I look around, like, nothing happens. Like, and I don't want I want my girls to feel like, if they, this might sound a little weird, but if they make a mistake, I don't want them to feel like something is just about to crush them for their mistake. Like, I believe that's an easy thing for a parent, an easy kind of, I would call it a stumbling block for a parent. And of course it is. It's like, kids say no. It's like, sometimes I get angry and impatient. Like, that's frustrating. The example I talked about in the last video. Hey girls, it's time to leave the playground. No. Okay, well, now what do I do as a parent? It's like, and a lot of parents, like, here's some, two major stumbling blocks. One, threatening the child. Like, okay, if you don't come, I think there's a spectrum of threats. Like, the worst kind of threat is, it's bad for the child, it's bad for the parent, it's bad for the relationship, is the threat of, like, okay, we're never going to come back unless you come, before I count to 10. Like, wait a second. Let's just pause there. The parent just threatened we will never come back to this place, whether it's McDonald's or a park. We will literally never come back. Like, is that really going to happen? In literally, if they don't come in the next 10 seconds, that's going to happen? Well, the only thing that I would say about that is, if I'm a parent and I say something, I have to follow through. I better follow through. I better be ready to follow through before I even say it. Like, if I say we're never coming back if you don't leave in 10 seconds, well, let me just say this. When the child doesn't leave in 10 seconds, are you really going to do that? Like, first of all, I don't agree with the threat, and it's like, that's a severe thing to force a child. That's coercion, and threatening is a stumbling. It's just, for me, that's a mistake. If I just don't threaten my girls, and there is a proper place. I'm not going to be black and white. Like, there's a proper place to declare, hey, if you do this, this will happen. Like, that is reality. Okay, that I'm okay with that. Like, but, and I'm kind of, what I'm going to explain in this video, is adjacent to threats, but I believe it's a proper way to kind of handle the situation. Another stumbling block, parents, I mentioned this in the last video, kids do not care about adult reasons. Like, I absolutely do not explain anything to my girls usually. Like, I will explain some things, but if we have to leave at 6, like, that's my business that we have to leave at 6, and children are not involved in that business. And I believe that for parents, like, a parent's business is not a child's business. Of course, you can choose to share. I choose to share some things with my girls. It's not black and white, but just by default, if I say we need to leave at 6, we need to leave at 6. Like, I have my reasons for that as the adult. I don't expect them to care. I don't expect them to understand. I don't want them to even know most of the time, because if I give a child that information, it's like, then they will start thinking like a child, like they are, as they should, and start giving me like these, weird, well, not weird, but childlike reasons why they need to get what they want. Like, girls, we need to go at 6 so I can get home and make dinner. Oh, daddy, but daddy, you can start making dinner at 6:30, or like, but daddy, the children want what they want, and they will think of ways to try to persuade me to do what they want, that is exactly what they should do. They are children. They need to learn, and they will learn. Like, it is not it is not about them. Like, and I believe that, at least my approach to that is not sharing, and not even expect, if I tell them like, hey, I need to get home to make dinner, I do not expect them to care. They should not care about that. They're kids. They want to get home and play. All they care about is, or they want to stay at the playground for another 2 hours. Like, that's what they care about. And I do not expect anything different out of them. They are children. And it doesn't mean I don't get I do get frustrated. Like, it's annoying sometimes, frustrating sometimes. It's like, like, it'd be great if they were like, Daddy, time to go. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, it is time to go. Like, or Daddy, I want to get home from this playground so you can make dinner. It's like, no, that is not how children think. If they did think that, I would be suspicious of some, angle where they're trying to get what they want, and this is nothing negative. This is just reality. That the reality that I live in is that kids are kids, and I expect them to be kids. Anyway, that's the other, if they're saying no or not doing what I'm telling them to do, I don't try to get them to care about it or persuade them with my own, adult reasons. They don't care. They shouldn't care. They shouldn't know. Okay. Anyway, and then just another easy stumbling block is just to get angry and intimidate the kid to leave, or carry them out kicking and screaming, will against will. Like, of course that's unavoidable sometimes. And my last resort is to make them do something they do not want to do. I just feel like there's a finite number of situations where that happens until I erode their trust, and I erode relationship by making them, forcing them, coercing them to do what I want them to do in the face of defiance. That is just a killer. It's just like, so what I'm not going to recommend is what I'm going to recommend is not a fear bait. They're not afraid of me. They're like, in terms of like, if they do something wrong, they're not trembling because they're going to get punished or yelled at, like, or the parent is going to hurt them in some way. What they are afraid of, what I believe is a proper fear, is if they don't listen to me, they will not get what they want. They will not, like, I don't give treats to little girls who are not cooperating with me. I do not, help girls with their problems if they're not cooperating with me. I do not, there's like, life for them just kind of grinds to a halt if they are not listening or cooperating with me. And, it does take time for them to learn that. It's very hard. It's not the easy fix. It's not the quick or easy, like, it's much easier to just get angry and scare them into doing what I want them to do, or at least I can imagine, but like, or it's easier to like threaten, but that is absolutely not, how reality works. I do not. So anyway, let me get into it. So basically what this is, we call it an uh-oh. Like, that's almost the worst kind of, as my girls know, it's like the worst kind of offense is a uh-oh. There's an energy drain, which I'll talk about in another video, but a uh-oh is like a blatant, like, Isla, it's time to load up in your car seat. No. Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to think about what to do about this, Isla. That's kind of how it works out. And you'll notice that, my uh-oh is a very soft and gentle thing, and it is a very fearful thing. When they hear the uh-oh noise, they know it's like, oh no, I crossed a line. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, and it's like my immediate, and I feel it. Like, when I know when I need to give an uh-oh, and I know when I don't need to get an and like, when I realize that they have done something wrong and I need to do something about that, that is a uh-oh. And so, I say that, and it doesn't happen very often anymore, but when they get a uh-oh, they know. And so there's a couple keys here. One key is that gentleness, that no change in my demeanor and my tone, which is very difficult, and it's only, gets easier with practice, and I'm not perfect about it, because when I'm very angry, it is very hard to just say, uh-oh. Right now it's easier. It's much easier than in the moment, but it's very key to not allow them to get, like, not allow my anger. It's very key for my anger not to influence my, because that turns into an unhealthy fear on their part. That turns into this immediate kind of overbearing consequence that is not what I believe rooted in reality when they become an adult. Like, there's nobody sitting next to me that's about to get angry at me if I do something wrong all the time. Like, that's just not reality. No, the reality is, like, something might actually happen, but something may not happen. I might think I got away with it. Anyway, so it is very important. And now if you decide to try this, the first time you do it, and here's what I actually normally do. I go, uh-oh. Oh no, it's very sad when little ones, say no to their daddy, or it's very sad when little ones, little girls don't cooperate with their daddy. And then I say, I'm gonna have to do something about this. And I might say, try not to worry about it. Or, I don't use that very often. That's something they say in Love and Logic, but I just say, I'm gonna have to do something about this, Isla. I'll let you know when I decide. It's kind of where I leave it in the moment. And then, there's degrees of, like, sometimes that's enough. They'll snap into gear. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Great. I love it when that happens. Other times it takes 5 minutes. They still, like, are disobeying or adamant about their situation, that I need to do something for them or something like that. Like, great. I kind of, I'll talk, that's another strategy I'll talk about on another video, kind of going brain dead while the tantrum or the the disobedience is happening, like that's another kind of developed technique. But for this video, it's like I present that as a uh-oh. I give kind of some little understanding of the situation, like, oh no, it's very sad when a little girl doesn't cooperate, or when a little girl says no to their daddy. It's very sad when this happens, and and then I also say I'm gonna have to do something about this. And that's I'm not in a hurry. I don't have to think of anything right away, and most times I don't know what I'm gonna do about it. And so that's just kind of like a, hey, you overstepped, and just and this is it might feel powerless, because you are not going to be able to take out your anger, frustration right away. It seems like the child is getting away with what they're doing. It seems like they win. They were able to say no, like to the adult. Like, it seems like they quote unquote won the situation. But here's what happens. Okay, so this is the amazing thing about all this, is like that then I kind of disengage with them. I do kind of give them a little space. Of course, it's great when they cooperate right away. Then sometimes it's just like the situation's over, and I decide I don't need to, I just let it go. I don't always have to follow through. However, when I do follow through, I'm gonna try to think of an example. It's like, yeah, I think like this was a very sad situation with my 1-year-old, who's been testing these limits lately. My 5-year-old, she's pretty much learned, like, she's been actually very cooperative lately. I think she's learned, like, when I don't cooperate with my daddy, life gets hard. Because I've followed through enough on these things over the last couple of years. But my 1-year-old, she was very obedient at first, but then I think she's been literally saying no to me a few times. And first time it was surprising, and I'm like, okay. And she's starting to learn. But one of the sad situations was just something I mentioned earlier. It's like, Isla, it's time to load up. Hop in your car seat, please. She's in the car. I need her to load up so I can go. And she goes, no. And she just keeps like kind of playing with my radio or playing with whatever she's playing with. It's like, okay. And sometimes and here's what I forgot this part. I almost always do this. I give them a little bit of grace period, and I'm okay with this. This is maybe not perfect or not for everybody, but I usually, if she says no or doesn't listen, I usually do this. I say, Isla, are you going to listen to your daddy or not listen? I kind of give her a gentle kind of choice, like make sure she knows she's making a choice. And she usually, at first she still disobeyed, but lately when she hears that, she snaps into gear because I've followed through with, and I'll tell you the example. So I said, Isla, are you going to listen to me or not listen, sweetheart? And she just kept doing what she was doing, and it's like, okay, bummer. It's like I gotta do Isla, oh no, you're not listening to your daddy. I'm gonna have to do something about this. This is very sad. And then, so I gave it a couple minutes, and then finally I was just like, Isla, I'm very sorry, but I cannot wait any longer. I'm gonna have to load you up. And so, I had to go up and I had to pick her up and load her in her car seat. And she was upset about this, and I said a few times, Isla, I'm very sorry. When little girls don't listen to their daddies, they have to load them up anyway. And, I'm very sorry about this. Just making sure the whole thing is done just in kind of the context of, empathy and sadness rather than like anger and force. But then it's like, as we started driving, she settled down. My 5-year-old did cooperate. The sad part was I brought like a little candy for each of them. I had a little treat for them. And, I realized, okay, well, to myself, I realized the consequence for Isla is going to be no treat, because I know, I check in with my own heart. It's like, am I willing to give this treat to Isla who wouldn't listen to me and load up? It's like, it does not make sense for me to give her a treat right now. Like she just drained my energy. She just, did not cooperate with me. I am not willing to give her a treat right now. Some of this is like, a lot of this is just really natural. I'm not trying to manufacture anything. I'm just like kind of checking in with myself and saying like, and realizing like, no, I am not willing to do this anymore. And it is sad. It's like, no, I want to give a treat to my 1-year-old. I love it. And the way that she just acted, like, I'm not going to be able to give her a treat. I'm like literally it's going to stay in my pocket. Now with two kids, it's like, this makes it even more natural and painful for Isla because, Ellie Jean cooperated. So she does get her treat. So I gave Ellie Jean her treat, and I told Isla, I'm very sorry about this. It's like, it's even sad thinking about it because I just hate this so much. But like, I'm like, Isla, I'm very sorry about this, but I can't give you a treat. I can't give treats to little girls who didn't cooperate with their daddies loading up. And yeah, she cried. She felt it. She understood. And that's important. It's important that they understand the consequence. It's important that it's at least somewhat logically connected to, the offense. Like she understood, like what she did resulted in, what happened. And I keep it very simple. It's like, little girls who listen to their daddies, they get stuff like treats, they get help from him, they get these things. Little girls who don't listen to their daddies, they don't get treats, they don't get special drinks, they don't get help when they need help. Like it's hard. They don't play with they don't necessarily play the game that the little girls want to play when they're not listening to their daddies or doing their jobs. Like keeping it on that level, it's simple enough for them to connect the dots, at least in my experience. And it's very sad. And she cried and it almost felt like it was too much. It almost felt like too much. And I can't remember what I did about that, but I think I ended up, comforting her. I didn't give her the treat, so anyway, it's times like that where, Isla learned a lesson that day, at least once, and it doesn't make her perfect. And so there's two things here. So one, that was very important for her. It was a great lesson for her. I was true to my own self in terms of what I was willing to do and not willing to do as the parent. I remained in control. The other thing that's true is I did not have to do anything about that. I don't have to be perfect. This is not like a this for that system. No, it's like, I would say I follow through on only about 50% or less of my uh-ohs. Usually I'm like, I'm going to do something about that. And that's scary, at least at this point. Maybe early on, I'm trying to think, like, I probably followed through more often. But now, if a girl gets a it's like, that's a scary thing, and they will snap into gear. Now, it's like, and I'll make, a couple other points here. Uh-ohs, if it's an uh-oh involving, like, toys and stuff, like, the consequences usually involves a toy as well. Things like this. Consequences is an interesting, what I come up with allows me to be creative. And, sometimes I just can't think of a right consequence. Sometimes it's very hard. And so sometimes I'll just let it go because I cannot think of a proper consequence. And I don't want to, ways this can backfire is confusing consequences. Like, I don't know. I can't think of an example right now. Another way this can backfire is severe consequences, like traumatic things, like they disobey and then all of a sudden, like, their favorite toy is like in the trash. Like, there is a place for leveraging toys and the child's possessions. Like, this is very important. Their possessions are on the table, and yet there's a done in empathy and in consideration of the child. Like, that can be very effective. But done severely, I have done it too severely where I realized, man, I threw away Ellie Jean's toy and surprised her with this or something like that happened, and it was, I could tell it was too much. It was too sharp of a pain for her. But you know, and another note on this is like, I don't to me, like, you know, I know there's mixed opinions on spanking, and with this technique, it's like, you know, the example I just gave is like maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10 on the pain scale. But I mean, I have, and to me, that is plenty of, that was even more than I wanted of kind of a consequence for Isla. And it, you know, it made it more severe that Ellie Jean had a treat, and she didn't. Like, that was very hard for her, and you know, only children can't experience that. But just like, I don't see any reason, like if I spanked a girl and then I let them go play with their tablet, for example, it's like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, something even more logical and painful would be, you know, some sort of, you know, taking away of a blessing rather than administering a punishment. I don't know if that makes sense, but somebody asked me about spanking the other day, and I thought about it. I hadn't thought about it in a long time. I'm like, I don't see any reason for spanking. Like, I can crank the pain up to 10 with not laying a finger on a child. And so I don't see a need for it. There's just, I don't have a need. I'm not missing something. I don't have a need for a punishment. So that's kind of my, you know, cause that's a, you know, on the same lines as a uh-oh. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. That was kind of, you know, much longer than I intended. But if you're interested in this, if you have a situation that's puzzling, or if you're, you know, would love to hear from you in the comment, you know, just let me know what your thoughts are, and, you know, your specific situation. You know, I'd love to help you. That's the only reason I'm doing these, is to help parents who find parenting as a challenge and just like a death, kind of a death exercise. And I want to show you and other parents like how it can be a life-giving thing. I absolutely love it, and I want to share the things like this that I do that make it a life-giving thing for me. That's it. All right. Thanks for watching.